Good evening and welcome to the Fort Hood Facebook and TV Town Hall. Don Campbell, Commanding General 3 Corps in Fort Hood. The purpose of this historic town hall is to provide you with an opportunity to ask questions about issues and concerns that impact you and your families. Behind the scenes, we have subject matter experts from all agencies and units on Fort Hood. Their job this evening is to ensure that we provide you with the most accurate and up-to-date information. Additionally, joining me here in the studio are key leaders that will help me answer questions that pertain to their areas of expertise. We will provide answers to every question that we receive on Facebook and from those that call in. With that, let me quickly introduce the gentlemen that have joined me in the studio this evening. First, our Garrison Commander, Colonel Mark Freitag.
Good evening. I'm Colonel Mark Freitag. I've been here for 18 months, and the job of the garrison is to provide infrastructure, services, and programs for all of our soldiers, families, and civilians that live and work here at Fort Hood. And one of our key statements inside the garrison is the great place, your Army home. And what we mean by that is that we want you to feel comfortable here at Fort Hood. We want you to have a positive experience so that when you get orders to PCS or to retire, you want to come back here to Fort Hood and to Central Texas to live and to work. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Mark. Next, we've got our Medical Center Commander, Colonel Pat Sargent. Pat?
Hey, sir, thank you. I'm the hospital commander. I've been here about 7 months here at Fort Hood, the great place. On behalf of the soldiers, civilians, and contractors providing world-class health care to our beneficiary population here at Fort Hood, I would like to say, sir, thank you for this opportunity to participate in this town hall. Our motto at Darnall is compassionate, world-class health care, one patient at a time. And this opportunity to listen to the community, to better understand what we can do better, is a wonderful opportunity for us to do that. So thanks for this opportunity, sir.
Thanks, Pat. Great to have you on the panel. Okay, and rounding out our panel is Mr. Marvin Williams, our Fort Hood Family Housing Rep.
Thank you, sir. My name is Marvin Williams. I'm the Director of Property Management for Fort Hood Family Housing. I'm responsible for the oversight of the property management and maintenance staff and the services that we provide to soldiers and families living in our communities. I'm excited about the opportunity to be here to address any questions or concerns that you may have, and it's a pleasure being here, sir. Thank you.
Okay, that's your panel. Remember, behind the scenes, we have dozens of folks standing by to help make sure you get the answer to your questions in a timely fashion. With that, let's begin. I understand we already have our first Facebook question. It's from a member of a combat stress team I witnessed in Iraq to discourage troops from going to see a mental health provider. One particular National Guard unit my team supported in Iraq consistently complained about leadership to us. So one of our doctors went to see their CO and First Sergeant, waiting to see how it could be made better. Instead, the CO and First Sergeant called a formation and said, if any of you blanking, go back there, complain, and you'll be sorry. I am curious how you handle this with your leaders. Are you aware of any intimidation among your units under your command? And what do you do to prevent it if it was brought to your attention? And what would you do to fix it? Let me just say thanks for your service, LT. I appreciate your question. Intimidation and hazing has no place in our Army, in particular when it regards behavioral health. Behavioral health is a serious, important issue in the Army that we have to take seriously. I talk to our leaders every day about fighting the stigma, asking our soldiers to come forward. We have tremendous resources at the Great Place, from our garrison team to our hospital team that can provide help. Let me just say, we don't put up with hazing. It's not what we're going to do, and we're going to hold those accountable that do it. Pat, would you like to expand on any of the services we have?
Yes, sir. Clearly, interesting enough, I spent 15 months in Iraq as a medical brigade commander. And under my command, I had combat stress control units. And those units are value added and provide significant support to soldiers in need in that deployed theater of operation. As a result of that, we are actually applying that same model here at Fort Hood and across the Army Medical Department in the form of embedded behavioral health teams. That team is going to be assigned to brigade combat teams to assist soldiers with the stigma, because they're working and living inside of that brigade combat area. And that will allow the unit commander and the soldiers to have a better relationship and kind of reduce some of this stigma and potential intimidation that might preclude someone from coming to seek help.
And before I go to the next question, let me just make sure you know that at Fort Hood, we follow the Army guidance on hazing. There will be none. And if I find leaders hazing, we will hold them accountable. That's the flat rule. Okay, we got another question on Facebook. According to the documentary Invisible Wars, less than 8% of military rapes are prosecuted, and less than 2% of prosecutions result in convictions. Can you tell us what Fort Hood is doing to help increase these dismal numbers? Absolutely. I appreciate that question. I review every sexual assault reported on this installation and off that impacts a soldier, a family member, or a civilian. I review that every month with the garrison commander and his team, with CID, our Criminal Investigation Division, with our lawyers, with our behavioral health specialists, with our advocates, and everybody. We take a good hard look at this. We have a special victims prosecutor here on the post, and he has a team that does nothing but prosecute sexual assault, sexual violence cases. We are working as hard as we can to make sure that if somebody is in fact raped or sexually harassed or sexually assaulted, that they feel confident in the command here to come forward and seek help, assistance, and know that we will hold those accountable if we can prove through UCMJ that they were guilty. So we'll do all we can to make sure that we provide services and protect those that may have been a victim of a sexual assault. Thanks for your question. Let me just put a plug in that we still have phone lines that are open. If you have a question you'd like to hear from me or the panel answer, give us a call at 288-4990. We've got another Facebook question. It's from Dee Dee. Our BAH recently increased. Will we see any improvements of the older 1950s to 70s quarters that have not? Absolutely. I work hard with the garrison team and Mr. Williams and his team every day to look at how we can remodel and in fact, over the out years, rebuild new homes or build new homes. That's an important priority. We've got to continue to turn over and make sure that we're doing a good job for you and that your quality of living on the installation is as good or better than what you could get off. And I'll just ask Marvin to expand on that.
Thank you. That's a fantastic question. Actually, I'm excited to talk about some of the things that will be taking place here over the course of the next few years. One of the things that we have happening here, we're starting to put the final touches on, is our replacement and conversion project out there in Chaffee Village. We're actually going to be demoing some of the homes out there as well as renovating some of the homes. So we'll take a duplex and convert it into a single home. We're getting close to doing that. This will take place over an 8-year period. We'll spend about $26 million on that. Let me also add that we have currently that we're working on, we'll finish up the Montague B renovation that's taking place out there. That's about 160 homes. We're spending about $8 million on that. We also have a rental fence project that will be starting here within the next 30 days. We're spending about $850,000 on that. Two things that will take place later on this year regarding Pershing Park and McNair, we're spending about $2.4 million replacing roofs. And we're also conducting a study on some of the homes out there that, just as the viewer said, 50 that was built in the 50s and 70s. We're looking at replacing windows, adding insulation in some of the homes, and things of that nature. That's a study that we're just wrapping up, and so look forward to hearing more information about that. Again, we post this information on our website at www.forthoodfh.com. You can see what's going on in your neck of the woods. As also what we do is we actually have a construction corner in our newsletter. If you're not signed up to receive the newsletter electronically, please do so, but we also try to keep residents informed on that as well. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Marvin. Okay, look, we have another Facebook question from Mallory. As my understanding is that on Thursdays, the soldiers are released early at 1500, 3 o'clock, to spend time with their families. If that is correct, then why is it after 1700 and my husband is still at work? This is not an isolated incident. I understand that things might have to be taken care of, but if they are to spend more time with their families, then they really need to be off. Mallory, great question. My guidance to our senior leaders at the brigade level is that they do everything within their power to make sure that your spouse, your loved ones are released at 1500 or 3 o'clock. And I know on occasion that does not happen every week. I'd like to think that it's not a continuing process, that he's not getting home at a reasonable hour. I will continue to reiterate that policy. It's important that when your spouse is home from a deployment and we have dwell time for him, in other words, it's between his time to deploy again, we need to make sure that he spends time with your family and that we appropriately recognize that he gets home at 1500 or close to on Thursdays, and that reasonable time during the rest of the week, sometime between 17 and 1800 or 5 and 6. My expectation is that your loved one will be home for dinner during those week hours. So I'll continue to stress that with our leaders. Understand that when your loved one is in an Army Force Generation cycle that has them in a deployment window, there will be times where they're going to have to conduct training past 1500, but I will continue to reiterate that. Thank you. Okay, we got another Facebook from Vicky. It's when the new medical center opens, will more services be offered to retirees again? I understand that there are limits, but retirees have had to use more and more medical services off post. It would be nice to be able to get some of those services back again. Well, Vicki, thanks for that question. Let me just say thanks to all our veterans out there and our retirees that have served honorably that can use our great hospital and our services off the installation. It's important that we treat you at Darnall when we can, but with the load that we have and the number of folks in our catchment area, i.e. the number of retirees, active duty, and veterans, it can be a challenge at times, and Colonel Sargent and his team will have to send folks off post. But I'll let him answer since he's the expert and knows the rules.
Yes, sir, that's absolutely correct. We will have to continually monitor our patient population, particularly as it relates to active duty here at Fort Hood, because that is our first priority. But the access for retiree will always be considered as it relates to the availability of the services that we have. I would like to take just a quick moment to talk about the new facility. We're looking at about FY15 in the summer of that facility becoming available. It's going to provide a tremendous amount of resource for us in the form of parking, because I know parking is a significant problem at the current facility. It's going to double. We've got about 5,200 parking spaces, and it will be covered. Likewise, we're going to have all single rooms, and it's going to be family-centric in the sense that we'll be able to have a family member stay in the room with the patient that are there overnight. Likewise, it's going to have natural lighting all throughout the facility. And so I think you're going to see that this facility is going to be very much a very positive experience and very welcomed to the Fort Hood area. So thanks for that question.
Thanks, Pat. Hey, we got another Facebook question from Dana. Storage and living space is at a premium, especially in some of our older housing. I reside in an older section of Comanche 3. The current blue recycling tubes are similar to bulky Rubbermaid totes, which are cumbersome and awkward. They take up a lot of space when placed next to each other, whether you use them in the carport area or in the kitchen. As a busy mom, wife, and teacher, I'm looking for ease of use in regards to recycling, so even if I had space under the carport for 3 recycling tubes, I would end up throwing away most cans, tins, paper, and plastic because my trash can is closer when I'm working in the kitchen. Can we look into vertical recycling bins? Look, I spend a lot of time, great question, I spend a lot of time talking to our team about net zero waste and recycling. It is one of my priorities on the installation for Net Zero 2020. In fact, we talk recycling. I would prefer to see big containers, 96 gallon, where you dump everything in them. I'll get Colonel Freitag to give you the answer to your question specifically, though.
Hi, Dana. Just a quick answer for you, and that is that we're running a program in Venable Village right now where we're doing single stream recycling. It's in a big container, just like your garbage can in the housing area, same size, 96 gallon, and it's all coming into the recycle center, and it's being processed single stream. So we're working a project to see how it works and if it increases recycling across the installation, specifically in Venable Village. And if it is successful, as I think it will be, we'll be able to expand that to other housing areas across the installation. So that's a good news story. And the CG mentioned net zero waste, and I just want to take a moment to say, hey, if you haven't heard about Net Zero Waste 2020, it's coming to Fort Hood, and we're excited about it. We want to reduce, we want to repurpose, we want to recycle, we want to compost, and then at some point in time, we want to be able to transition that last remaining 10 to 20% of our garbage and turn it into energy, perhaps, so that we do not have to empty it into the landfill hood. And that's our goal, 0% or 0 items going into the landfill by 2020.
Okay, Mark, great answer. Thank you. Let me just say, hey, our phone lines are still open, 288-4990. Give us a call. We'd like to answer your questions. We're going to take it up and wrap it into a break right here, but continue to send in your questions to Facebook, and if you want, call online. We've got great teams ready to answer your questions, and we'll do the best we can in here. Thank you. Great to have you with us tonight from a historic Facebook and TV town
Army
hall.
Medical Center. We know that being part of a military family can be both rewarding and challenging. Our behavioral health providers are here to help you celebrate the achievements and confront the challenges of military life as they arise. If you or a family member needs support, talk to your primary care provider about assistance programs and care options available to you. At Card AMC, you will receive passionate world-class health care because you deserve it. Teens, get moving each afternoon with a variety of health and fitness programs at 4 youth centers located in a Fort Hood neighborhood near you. Join the fitness party as you groove with Zumba, belly dancing, or Geo-Motion. Make a muscle with free weights and quality fitness equipment, or jump into a strength and conditioning boot camp. Refuel and hit the snack bar for a healthy and tasty treat. Fort Hood youth centers are open during out-of-school hours, Monday through Saturday. Visit us on the web at hoodmwr.com or friend us on Facebook.
Welcome back to our TV and Facebook Town Hall. We got a question on Facebook from Curtis. His question is, when transitioning into the medical evaluation board system, there is a span of time where neither your assigned PA nor your doctor at the MEB clinic will see you until a Pueblo, a physical evaluation board liaison officer, is assigned. This can last 2 months, where the service member cannot receive any non-emergency medical care. What is being done to address this? Pat, I'll throw that one right to you.
Yes, sir. Thanks for the question. I'm troubled by that question because I know that we never disenroll a soldier from their primary care provider. Here at Fort Hood, we have a goal of trying to ensure that 60% of the soldiers see their primary care provider each time they come for a visit. As it relates to the MEB clinic, we have transformed the way we conduct the MEB primary care mission. Just recently, about 1 February, we're going to start where all the soldiers who are in the MEB process will then be reassigned back to their primary care physician inside of their respective battalion aid station and then our TMCs. So you should not have a time where you do not have a primary care manager. And I do believe that the care that you will see as it relates to being assigned to a primary care clinic was going to be very much improved. So get back with us if you have a problem seeing a primary care provider. Thanks for the question.
Yeah, great question. Okay, we've got Nancy on line 2. Nancy, go ahead with your question.
Yes, sir. I'm a civilian. I'm a permanent civilian, and I'm not eligible for retirement, but I was just wondering if there was any plans for Fort Hood to try to relocate me or help me find another job.
Well, specifically to relocation, I'll let Colonel Freitag answer, but we have a lot of capability on the installation that can help you if you're going to be relocated or you want to be relocated from a job search standpoint for a civilian. Lots of opportunities out there. I'll throw that one to Colonel Freitag to give you some specifics, though.
Thanks, sir. Hi, Nancy. Just to let you know, the short answer is yes, there are programs that are in place to let you relocate to another installation. Here at Fort Hood, as we've been briefing our garrison workforce, the garrison is reducing its end strength in FY13 by 170 folks, down to a final number of 1,700 by 1 October of this year. And so as we've reorganized and reshaped and restructured the garrison, those people that aren't matched to a authorization currently, those people are eligible to compete for other jobs across MCOM, the 74 installations that MCOM manages worldwide. There's a program called the MCOM Enterprise Placement Program where you can go online and you can look at same grade positions that you may be qualified for and essentially compete for that job, whether it's at Fort Bragg, Fort Campbell, or in Europe perhaps. So talk to your supervisor about the Enterprise Employment Placement Program, the MCOM Enterprise Placement Program, and you will get all the information that you need. We'll be able to steer you in the right direction to relocate.
Thank you, sir.
Nancy, thanks for that question. Hey, understand we're having some technical difficulties on KNCT. You can watch the program on Time Warner Cable Channel 132 if you choose to. Understand we have a Facebook question now. That question is, I'd like to know about the new re-enlistment policy. My concern is one of my sons has been to war 4 times and has almost 15 years in the Army. He wants to stay in. How do we make sure that his career is safe when they are limiting re-enlistments? Well, let me just say that thank you for your son's service and thank you for your contribution in allowing your son to serve. If your son is a good soldier, like most of us are, and he doesn't have any misconduct, he'll be allowed to re-enlist. The windows have tightened up. For instance, to be able to re-enlist for this fiscal year, which obviously ends at the end of September, soldiers have to re-enlist by 31 January this year. The window for next fiscal year, a small piece of it opens up in 1 March this year. So it's imperative that soldiers understand the time frame, and that if they want to stay on the Army team, they've got to be great soldiers, stay out of trouble, and make a difference every day. Live the Army values and the warrior ethos, and your son will have no problem staying with the Army team. Thanks for that question. Okay, we're going to go to another Facebook. It's from Jason. He says, do you believe soldiers have a right to heal from military trauma? Well, absolutely. And we've got to take the time to make sure that we allow soldiers to heal. Look, nothing is more important. It is very important to me to make sure that our soldiers understand that there are a tremendous amount of resources here at the Great Place. Like I said earlier, from the garrison team to the hospital center team, to make sure that soldiers have the opportunity to get the care and the concern that they need. They just have to come forward. I'm asking soldiers to come forward. I know there is a stigma out there, and there continues to be. I talk to our leaders every day about breaking that wall down to make soldiers comfortable to come forward so that they can heal. So yes, there is still trauma. They still need to heal, and we're going to do our best to make sure they can. Pat, excuse me, any follow-up?
Yes, sir. The stigma associated with particularly a soldier seeking help for behavioral health is concerning. But I will tell you that there are significant programs here at Fort Hood to help soldiers both within Darnall and also on the network. If a soldier wants to seek support and not have it known to the chain of command, they can do it through a couple of means. It's Military Warrant Source, where they will have the opportunity to receive 12 counseling without anyone knowing about it. Likewise, they have Vet for Warriors. It's a program where there are veterans who have gone through similar traumatic experiences as those warriors, and they're on the phone line to help talk soldiers about the issue that they are going through. But particularly inside of my, what I control here at Fort Hood, we have some dedicated professionals who are former military, who have all had combat experience, both military and civilian, and they're standing by to support. I talk routinely to soldiers who have come in and received treatment, sir, and these folks tell me that our folks are doing a wonderful job providing them with their care. What I'm most concerned with is soldiers who choose not to come. What I'm seeing at that point is there are issues that arise in their life, be it financial, family, and they destroy their careers inadvertently. And so if they come forward and receive help, I believe we can get them back into the fight and make them a productive soldier in our Army.
Thanks, Pat. Great answer. Look, I want to make sure you know that there are a tremendous amount of folks working behind the scenes to pull this off tonight. From our garrison team to our public affairs team to our MEDAC to our hospital team to our housing team. A lot of folks working behind the scenes. We appreciate all they're doing to make this possible. This is really historic. We know we're having some technical difficulties, but we'll fight through them. The key is we're going to get the dialogue about this, and I thank the team for putting this on tonight and making us work a little harder. That's what we should do. Got a Facebook question from Margaret. With parking being an issue at places like the hospital, the new chapel, etc., I think parking garages would be the best way to go. Would this be a cost-effective alternative? Great question, and absolutely. And in fact, our new hospital center that's being built, and it'll be done in 2015, will have double the parking, I'm told, from Colonel Sargent, and it will have a parking garage. Pat?
Sir, that's absolutely correct. Regrettably, at this point, we have about 2,500 parking spaces at Darnall. It's going to be 2015 before we get the new parking spaces, but there will be 2 garages built, and they will have covered parking available with 5,200 parking spaces. What I would ask as a hospital commander, for the parking spaces that are in the facility around Darnall that is currently labeled handicap, I've seen a number of people who are trying to get into our facility have mobility issues, as well as our expectant mothers. And I see people inside of those parking spaces that doesn't have any of those mobility issues, and they have asked me to try to encourage folks to be more considerate of the folks who really need those particular parking spaces. We also have support from our Red Cross. You'll probably see that they have mobile golf cart-like vehicles riding through the parking lot to try to help people get to and from the facility as well. So we really appreciate our Red Cross volunteers who provide that support. So thanks, sir.
Thanks, Pat. Okay, we got Ryan on line 2. Go ahead, Ryan.
Hi. I'd like to know when can we expect to see benefits like FGLI, medical, and BAH extended to non-traditional same-sex families?
Hey, Ryan, that's a great question. The bottom line is until the Defense of Marriage Act is repealed and the Department of Defense works through the legal hurdles, I don't think you're going to see that for a while. Now, it could be a short period, it could be a long period, but until the Defense of Marriage Act is repealed and we get some specific guidance from the Department of Defense, I don't have a great answer to tell you. Mark, anything else?
No, sir, I think you're spot on.
Okay, so it has to do with the Defense of Marriage Act, Ryan, and the Department of Defense working with our lawmakers to repeal that if they chose to make those benefits eligible to your same-sex partner. But thanks for your question. Okay, we're going to take a question from Chris on Facebook. How do you ensure that soldiers who run into disciplinary problems as a result of their traumatic injuries are given treatment and care instead of punishment and possible bad conduct charges? Well, I personally review any soldier that's in the system from a MEB or the Installation Disability Evaluation System to make sure that if they have a disciplinary challenge and they're in that system, that we give them treatment that they're afforded to from the medical side, but that we look at the misconduct that they may have committed and try to balance that. Some of the things don't weigh, and we may have to chapter a young man or a woman for their misconduct. But if they are chaptered with the disposition of a general separation, they can still go to the Veterans Administration and get the support they can do. I can assure you, I review that at every level with every commander on this installation and work that very hard day in and day out as I meet with our commanders and as I meet with our legal team to make sure that we provide the best care that we can for our soldiers and make sure that we give them fair treatment when it comes to UCMJ should they be in that system. I always tell soldiers, come to us and get the help you need before it becomes a disciplinary challenge, because we're going to do our best to make sure that you get the great care from Colonel Sargent and his team, but if you're committing misconduct, we're going to hold you accountable for that misconduct. So we'll do the best we can to make sure that we provide the best service for our soldiers on the medical side and give them the treatment they deserve. So, great question. Thank you for that. Look, I also want to thank our emergency operations team that is doing the hard work, or excuse me, the team that is doing the hard work in the building to answer those Facebook questions. Keep the Facebook questions coming. We're going to answer every one of them. And please call 288-4990. Thanks very much for joining us. We'll be back with you in a couple of minutes.
Did something happen in Iraq or Afghanistan that you can't get out of your head? Is that making you feel jumpy, irritable, or distant? You may have post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD, and StrongStar may be able to help. With support from 3 Corps Command, our research group is recruiting service members from Fort Hood for studies using the top psychological treatments for PTSD. Both have been used effectively with civilians. Now StrongStar is evaluating their success with combat-related PTSD. For information, call us at 254-288-1638 or visit our website at strongstar.org.
Every motor pool on this post is required to have recycled containers, so use it. 80% of your trash is recyclable. If it can go in here, then I don't want to see it in your trash. By 2020, this post is required to be at net zero when it comes to waste. That means eliminating landfills. Leaders at every level must emphasize the importance of recycling. Whether it's metal, cardboard, or motor oil, lean forward and get your units involved. Net Zero 2020. Every day, you have a chance to make the great place greener.
Fort Hood has its own radio station? It's true! FortHoodRadio.com with great music and the info you need to know. FortHoodRadio.com with great personalities, great music, and tons of info about the great place, Fort Hood. Find us on your internet listening device. FHR, FortHoodRadio.com. Great music from the great place.
Welcome back to our Fort Hood TV and Facebook Town Hall. It's great to have you come back with us. Look, I know we're having some technical difficulties. You can listen to this audio on FortHoodRadio.com. Great radio station here run by our great team at the Corps. You can listen to everything that we're talking about. Understand we have Sandra on line 4 with a question. Go ahead, Sandra.
Hey, I was just curious if you guys were going to address the issue at peak times at the entrance at Clear Creek coming into Kuma.
I'm sorry, could you give me the question again, Sandra? The signs, I heard signs.
What you were going to do about the peak times with PT and lunch coming in off of Clear Creek into the Johnson Street in Kuma?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Sandra. Look, we have a lot of challenges on the installation with traffic. Let me just say that last time I checked, we had 17 gates. And I'm not telling you to use other gates. We're looking at the traffic flow. All things are on the table. It's been suggested to me to look at staggering PT hours, doing PT later in the day, and a number of things that we're taking a look at. I'm not a big fan of PT later in the day or staggering hours. I want soldiers to have some continuity and know when they're going to come and go from the installation. We have work to do on the traffic, and I've tasked the garrison commander and his team, and they've got a great team looking at it with engineers from the state and from the post to see how we can address the traffic jams. My concern, as yours is that with the troops coming back from deployments with longer dwell times and more soldiers back, next summer, for instance, we'll only have about 5,000 deployed. We've got to do some work on this. I can tell you, though, that historically, when we had the two divisions here, the 4th Division and the 1st Cav, traffic has been a problem, but we're going to do our best to address it to make sure that you can get on and off the installation in good order. I would ask you to take a look at those peak times and try to go off and come back on at different times. I'm encouraging soldiers to stay here when they get done with PT. Don't go home to get cleaned up. Use our facilities. I'll work on that to make sure that we can open them for you. And then stay here and go to our dining facilities. Go to Chili's. Use the facilities on the installation so you don't have to rush, and then pick the times that are best for you. But Sandra, we'll keep working that for you, and I thank you for the question.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're going to go to Jason on Facebook. I have 3 questions. With the success of the recent air assault course, will this be a permanent course offered here at Fort Hood? Let me answer that one first. The answer is I'm pushing to make that possible. I've asked Forces Command to get a permanent air assault school here. I believe we'll be successful. We've got the resources, we've got the facilities. It's a matter of working with ForceCom and the Fort Benning team to certify our team. But I do believe during this fiscal year we'll be successful in bringing air assault course here. And the second part of that question is, are there discussions of any kind, additional ASI, additional skill indicators, or SQIs, producing schools being offered here in the future? Right now, what we're looking at, Jason, is in particular just the air assault. If the Army were to look to move something else here, we might take a look at it. But I will tell you, through re-enlistment options and other school options from your units, there are opportunities to go to plenty ASI and SQI producing schools. And the third part of his question is, have there been any discussions of a change from a heavy mechanized unit to a light and or striker unit coming to any of the brigades here at Fort Hood? Jason, the answer is yes. We have a striker unit that is converting. The 3rd Armored Cavalry Regiment is now the 3rd Cavalry Regiment, and they will be receiving strikers here and going through the conversion process for about the next 18 months. We'll be becoming more of an infantry-centric brigade with strikers, and they'll be converting over the next 18 months. So we're looking forward to the strikers coming in late March and April, and the soldier will be able to work with that equipment. So that's the short answer to that one. The answer is yes, we'll be getting strikers here in the 3rd Cav. Thanks for that question. Okay, we've got Herv on Facebook. With the current and future budget cuts causing Fort Hood and other installations to use soldiers in place of civilians, what will Fort Hood's leadership do to ensure that those soldiers, such as the ones now on special duty at the post entrance gates, maintain their combat readiness? As a 23-year retired soldier, experience taught me that such extended special assignments, which last several months, can cause soldiers to miss field training and exercises which are essential to maintaining combat readiness and learning newly implemented techniques. That's a great question. First of all, thanks for your service. Appreciate all you did to serve your country, Herb. The one thing we're doing is we look at what the Army now calls the Soldier Skill Set Utilization Program, is to make sure that our soldiers are only on it for 90-day increments, and to make sure that we time it within the Army Force Generation cycle to make sure that soldiers don't have to be on a gate or in another S3 up, as I said, duty while their unit is preparing for a combat operation. And we're doing our best to make sure that occurs. And I can assure you, I sit down with every leader that we look at for a tasking of that nature and take the unit through their capability to do it, their training to execute it, and then to make sure that we're not going to degrade their combat skills should their unit call for them. But thanks for your service again, Herb, and thanks for that question. Okay, Norma's on Facebook. Why does Darnall only have one pharmacy for the whole hospital? It takes forever to get our medication with sitting and waiting. Colonel Sargent, I'll turn that one over to you.
Yes, sir. Thanks for the question. Hey, look, Norma, at Darnall right now, space in the hospital clearly was built to, when it first started, for 17,000 soldiers. It has increased now to where we're trekking about 52,000 soldiers. And so the concern that we have at Darnall is about the new hospital being built, which is going to provide us with much more space to have multiple pharmacies throughout the facility. At this point, you have several means to be able to get your medications to reduce the wait time inside of the current pharmacy. At each of the satellite TMCs, there are pharmacies available there for folks who are assigned to those particular TMCs. Likewise, we have a mail order program where you can receive your medications, particularly those for chronic conditions, through mail order. And so we will encourage folks to do that. We've also instituted a program where you can drop off your prescription and then come back and pick it up the next day. We have a phone-in refill where if you phone in, you can come back and pick it up the next day in a refill. So we've done kind of innovative ways without having the space in the current hospital to build multiple pharmacies. But more importantly, we got to look at safety. When we consolidate our pharmacy, particularly for the large volume that we have each and every day in the hospital, it allows our pharmacists to consolidate their expertise to ensure that each prescription being filled is done in a safe and efficient manner as well. But again, there are other ways that you can receive your medication without having to sit and wait in Darnall proper. Thanks for the question, sir.
Thank you, Pat. I think we have Don on line 2. Don, go ahead. Okay, Don, are you there on line 2?
Sir, I'm here.
Go ahead. Go ahead, ask your question.
Okay, sir. Thank you for taking my question. My question is, has anyone given any guidance into, you're losing a great civilian population of contractors and experts and engineers in this great deficit that we're going through. What are we looking at? Because we are still going through a digital battlefield age and we are still upgrading our military. But what happens to all the civilians when they're dismissed and they say, you can go left and you can go right, we don't care. But we are the ones that actually help the military. We're the combat enablers that actually do this for the military. We're the ones that are sleeping and eating and out there with these soldiers. So we sacrifice just as much, but I don't think anyone's ever answered that question about, well, we have forgotten about what these contractors do. We're just not people out there on the battlefield. We are actually living and eating with your soldiers, sir. So I would just like you to maybe comment to that.
Well, no, Don, that's a great point. You know, I went into combat as the 1st Brigade, 4th Infantry Division commander, and I took a good number of civilians and great Army contractors into combat to support the digital systems that I took into combat. So I'm a believer in that system. Obviously, as the Army looks to downsize and over the next few years, we're going to have to take a good hard look at how civilians are managed and how our contractors are managed. And it's something that I can assure you, I dialogue with the FORSCOM commander repeatedly. And I would bet that a lot of our great Army contractors, and to include our great Army civilians, are retirees or veterans. So we've got to make sure that we do all we can to utilize your skill sets and to let you know that you're value added. I don't have a great answer to your question because I've got to do some work with the Army as we look at what's going to happen in the future. But I really believe there will continue to be a place at the great place and around the Army for great Army contractors and great Army civilians that have the skill sets that you describe, and I'm sure that you have. And I can tell you that I value your service. I couldn't have done what I did as a brigade commander or a multinational corps Iraq chief of staff without great Army civilians and great contractors in support. And so we'll continue to dialogue about this and make sure that that folks understand the value that you bring not only to the battlefield but to the garrison team here. So Don, thanks for that question. I know I didn't hit I didn't hit it out of the park, but I just want you to know I value it, and we'll take the rest to see what we can do for you.
God bless.
Okay, we got Facebook. Amanda, there are so many open areas on post and in post housing areas. Is it possible to fence in small areas to be used as off-leash dog parks? The closest one to Fort Hood is Austin. My dogs love to play and interact with other dogs, but we can't afford to drive 60 miles to go to a dog park to play off-leash or to pay them or enroll in doggy play days. I have many friends who would also use a dog park as well. That's a great question. That's something we ought to be taking a look at, and I'll throw that to Colonel Freitag and then possibly over to Marvin.
Yeah, Amanda, it's a great question, and I'll tell you that one of the things that that I think is important is that as a dog owner myself, I enjoy having a place to take my dog to run and to walk and to do the things that dogs like to do. In D.C., when I lived in D.C., we had dog parks that we go to. One of the things is that when you entered that dog park, there was a statement at the top of the dog park entrance on a sign that said that the city is not held liable, and that's really the big question here at Fort Hood is how do we get by that liability should someone be injured at that dog park. I think it's a great idea. It's something that we need to research. I like the idea. I'll take a look at it, and we'll see what we can't do.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, we've got Heather on Facebook again. I'm sorry, line 3. Go ahead, line 3. I think it's, go ahead.
Yes, sir. First of all, thank you guys for taking the time to do everything here that you're doing. This is like a great avenue for us to vent some concerns. My concern is last October it was stated that posts do not have to have vehicle decals, and with this, time of cutbacks and everything, I was wondering, is Fort Hood planning to do away with the decals further? Not only would you save money on the decals, but I'm thinking of all of those employees that I think, their main job is to issue them to be used elsewhere on posts.
Sure.
And eliminating those positions.
No. Hey, and thanks for calling in. That's a great question. I've had many times I've dialogued with Colonel Freitag and our Director of Emergency Services, Colonel Pat Williams, about the value added of decals. Right now, I like the decals, and I'll tell you why. Because it helps us identify soldiers and family members that should live and work on the installation. It helps us identify violators of certain things that may be from a traffic standpoint on the post. I understand we have to balance it from a force protection standpoint when our soldiers and family and civilians go off the installation. We're going to continue to dialogue with this. There are a few installations in CONUS, the United States, that have obviously done away with decals, and there are some that still keep them. It's my belief as the CG that we should keep them, and I've weighed that with the force protection concerns. I've weighed it looking at the money, and believe me, that's a big consideration that we'll have to take a look at, and we may have to look at it again in the future. I evaluate that policy and a number of others quite frequently with Colonel Freitag and his team, but we'll continue to look at it, and I thank you for your question, and thanks for joining us tonight on our Facebook and TV Town Hall.
Thank you for your time, sir.
And I'll turn it to Colonel Freitag to just give us an update on some of the garrison initiatives he's got going on.
Well, sir, thank you for the opportunity to talk a little bit about one of my favorite topics, and that is net zero. I'm just here to tell you folks that Net Zero 2020 is here at Fort Hood. We have been selected as a pilot installation for the Army so that we can get to zero things going into the landfill by the year 2020. We're going to achieve that by reducing the amount of garbage that we create, repurposing things instead of throwing them into the landfill, i.e. one man's garbage is another man's treasure, and then recycling and composting. And we've got a premier program here at Fort Hood that's a recycling leader across the Department of the Army. And we're really excited about it. And so this is a great effort, and we're really excited about net zero.
Okay, thanks. Keep coming with those questions. Thank you.
Every day, over 80 tons of trash ends up in our Fort Hood landfill.
We need to reverse this trend because, frankly, our environment can't sustain it. Fort Hood has a goal to eliminate all waste across the installation by 2020. That's only 8 years from now. Each of us has a part in this, and we can start today by reducing the waste we generate and recycling everything we can.
It may take a bit more effort and even a few more seconds of time, but if it means eliminating this landfill, I'm more than willing to put forth the effort.
Environmental stewardship is important at every level. And as a younger generation of soldiers serving our great nation, we have the most to gain by helping Fort Hood achieve its goal to eliminate waste and close the landfill by 2020.
80% of the trash we generate is recyclable, and currently only 44% makes it to the recycling center. It's up to us to take advantage of these convenient resources.
Let's each do our part and demonstrate that once again, no mission is too hard for the American soldier.
Net zero by 2020.
Okay. Hey, welcome back to our historic TV and Facebook Town Hall. It's great to have you with us tonight. I understand we have a caller on line 1. I believe it's Corey.
Thank you, sir. I have a question about the med board and promotion. I'm currently in the med board process, and I've been told that I am no longer eligible for promotion, but then I've also been told that I can still get promoted while in the med board process, the MEB process. And I have seen people get promoted while in the MEB process.
Okay, Corey, thanks for that question, and thanks for your service. I'll throw that to Colonel Sargent from the medical side, then I'll close up.
Yes, sir. Hey, Corey, candidly speaking, I don't have a direct answer for that question for you right now. But I know that this is being put on Facebook, and so what I'll ask for you to do is go check Facebook to ensure that you get the answer that you deserve on that. If you do not, I need for you to contact us at 288-8001, and we'll get that exact answer to you as it relates to being promotion, your eligibility with while you're in the MEB process. But I want to just take a moment to talk about the MEB process. At Fort Hood, we are growing our capacity to support soldiers who go through that particular process. Right now, we got about 2,200 soldiers who are in the MEB process. It takes, and you probably know, an inordinate amount of time. Right now, on average, it's taking 334 days, sir.
Yeah.
And it's a 295-day process. But we are building our capacity in the sense that we're growing from 46 individuals up to 176 folks. And some of the folks who are in the in this listening audience on TV might have already been some of the folks we've selected to come work inside of our MEB process. So my point to you is that we're going to get you in and out of the MEB process more in an expeditious manner, either transitioning or back to your unit.
Hey, Corey, this general does not know the answer to that question. I'll be the first to admit, but we will get you an answer, and I thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir.
Ooh. Okay, we've got, I believe, Quincy on line 4. Go ahead, Quincy.
Yes, hello to you all. Good evening, and thank you for the time of giving a chance to answer questions, of the community. My question is related to when the father asked about his sons that had 15 years in service. Well, I'm a concerned spouse, and my wife was on postpartum profile.
Right.
And when she got off of profile, she was in her 90-day window. Now, the PT card that she did have, they said it was invalid. But like I say, is there a way where her PT card can be waived for re-enlistment?
Hey, Corey, Quincy, thanks for that question. I don't believe that can be waived because of the standards from the new standards being put forth by the Chief of Staff of the Army. But that I will have Sergeant Major Coleman answer that question because he's out working tonight on Facebook. But I will answer that. We will answer that specific question that will not necessarily tie to your. It will tie to your personal situation. But I believe the answer is that you've got to have a valid PT card to re-enlist.
Right. Okay.
All right.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, we've got Dora on Facebook. Is Fort Hood getting a new state-of-the-art gym? Abrams is old and small. Dora, that's a great question. Simply put, the Army is not investing in new gyms in most installations around the country. Very, very few military construction is being built or used for new gyms. What the Army is doing is asking us to use what we call, to renovate. And we're working through a renovation process right here at Fort Hood, which I'll ask Colonel Freitag to briefly disclose or talk about as we look at the gyms, because we've got a program, as you know, that we're renovating many of the gyms to include Burba, and I think Abrams is on the chart in the near future. Go ahead.
Yes, sir, absolutely. I'll tell you, Dora, that here at Fort Hood, we've been doing exactly that, and that is renovating gyms, because the CG's right. The Army's not going to build new gyms, but we're going to put our money in renovating what we currently have. And so recently we've renovated the West Fort Hood gym, we've renovated the Gray Wolf gym, and we've renovated the Harvey gym. One that's currently under renovation on the east side of Post is Starker, and when Starker is finished, we're going to renovate Burba. And when Burba is finished and the Army Combatives is finished up this summer, we're going to begin renovating Abrams. So there's money out there, but it's dedicated to renovations. That's all I got, sir.
Thank you. Okay, we got another Facebook question. It's from Karen. I have a question about improving the sirens for emergencies. In Pershing, you are not able to hear them well. Can you improve this? The answer is yes. Give us that feedback. We consistently check those. You know we do test them on a monthly basis. And I do look at Facebook on occasion, and folks say that they cannot hear and they cannot hear the test. So keep letting us know. Call the Garrison Commander's office, call the DPW, the Director of Public Works, and we'll get on it. Okay, we got a question from Heidi. Her question is, why is it so hard to get into the WTU? My soldier was denied. Well, Heidi, it's a very complicated, it's not a complicated process, but there's a very rigorous process to make sure that a soldier is qualified to enter the WTU. I review every soldier's application or his unit's application or hers to come into the WTU through what's called a triad process. That is the WTB commander, medical center commander, and myself. And we review that with the unit that nominates soldiers for the WTU. Now, I'll let the good colonel cover the standards because he knows them better than anybody, but there are specific standards that relate to whether a soldier is qualified to enter. So, Pat, could you cover that?
Yes, sir. Within the WTU, the criteria essentially is 6 months of rehabilitative type of support, complex medical condition that requires complex case management. That process is reviewed by, as the general just stated, a triad board. It is brought to this board with all of the medical information that's available on that soldier. The chain of command has the opportunity to come before that board and talk to us about the impact that soldier has on the unit, but more importantly, their medical conditions. Having had experience at the WTC as a chief of staff for 2.5 years, I know that a lot of times people believe that just because they're non-deployable, they should be placed into the WTU. That is not true. We know that there's a lot of soldiers who are functioning very well within their particular unit. We've also built what we call a medical management center, which allows us to be able to help case manage certain soldiers who have medical conditions that doesn't really meet the criteria to get into the WTU. Those soldiers who have complex issues, be they medical, behavioral health, they're placed in the WTU because they really need a ratio of 1 to 10 for a squad leader, 1 to 200 for a physician, and that allows them to cope, get healed, and get better to go back to unit. And there's a whole bunch of other services that we provide for them as well. But generally speaking, we would like to keep a soldier in their unit to be able to provide them the support they need as opposed to put them in the WTU. But the medical condition is the thing that we look at most about being into the WTU for an assignment.
And let me assure you that it's a process that I take very seriously, and I make brigade commanders show up every month and we talk through the process. So it's a great question. I think we're going to Facebook. I got a Facebook question from Jose. Are there any plans to have an in-person town hall meeting either on post or at the Killeen at the convention center or some other facility? We're always looking for ways to get feedback. We may do it in person. We're going to do an after-action review on this historic TV and town hall, Facebook. We'll see if we need to do one in person. But if you really want us to do one, let us know out there on Facebook if you'd prefer that. I believe this is the way to go as we look at the future. We can answer more questions. We can dialogue with you. But we'll take your feedback on if this is working for you. Great question, Jose. And I think our question is from Catherine on Facebook. We have had strangers approaching our children and family pets being stolen out of backyards. All of this is happening on post. What is being done to increase security and ensure the safety of families and soldiers living on post? Well, thanks for that question. First of all, let me just say that your security and your force protection is of the utmost importance to me and the team right here, including our great garrison commander and our Director of Emergency Services, Colonel Pat Williams. I review not only the statistics, but what we're doing is we work through with our legal folks, as we work through with our policemen on a monthly basis, not only what our statistics are, but what we're doing to make sure that we keep folks safe on the installation. If you've got a concern with something that we're not doing right, let us know. Get with the DES, get with the garrison commander, but please let us know. We don't want stuff stolen out of backyards. We don't want stuff stolen out of your homes. We don't want folks coming on the installation that are going to do you harm or steal from you. We will continue to make sure that we're vigilant. If you got a specific housing area or concern, I talk to Colonel Freitag all the time. And while we're at it, we have a number of non-contiguous housing areas at the Great Place. We're doing all we can to make sure that we keep those safe and that we listen to your concerns. We have random access checks. We have MPs that rove in the housing areas. We're going to do all we can to make sure that we provide a safe and secure environment for you. Let us know what we're not doing there and we'll get after it. Anything you want to add, Mark?
Oh, sir, you
Can
covered
I
it.
add something, sir?
Yeah, Marvin, go ahead, please.
Yeah, also wanted to point this out as it relates to our communities. Each one of our communities has started a neighborhood watch program, and it's extremely critical that residents get out, become a part, and participate in that program. It can help and supplement the efforts that are going on the installation, but it's a fantastic way to get involved in your community, identify those areas of risk and opportunities, and get that information to the proper authorities so these things can be addressed. So I want to encourage you, reach out to your community manager through the administrative office or the community center and tell them you want to participate in the Neighborhood Watch program. It's extremely critical that you play a part and participate in that. Thank you, sir.
Marvin, thank you, and thanks for that question. I believe we're running short on time, so that was probably the last question. I'm going to turn it over to our panel members for some closing remarks, and then I'll come back and close it out. So Marvin, please.
It's been a pleasure to serve on this committee with the distinguished guests. Thank you for your questions on Facebook and through the telephone as well. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to serve each and every one of our soldiers and families by working through Fort Hood Family Housing. We take your residency with us serious, and if there's any other issues or concerns or problems that you have, please, please, please reach out to us, whether it be on our website, whether it be through our community offices, administrative buildings. Let us know how we can better serve you and get you the service that you need so you can enjoy a wonderful experience living here on Fort Hood.
Thanks, Marvin. Colonel Freitag?
Yes, sir. Thank you. To everybody out there, I encourage you to use the ICE system. That's the Interactive Customer Evaluation System. Do it online, fill out a card, go to a kiosk, but get on there and provide us some constructive criticism about what's happening positively or negatively at Fort Hood. Someone will respond, and I encourage you to provide your name and a contact number so that we can close the loop with you. That's it, sir.
Thanks, Mark. Colonel Sargent.
Yes, sir. We've been at war for 10 years, and it's often stated that when you wound a soldier, you wound a family. So it is an absolute pleasure and an honor and a privilege for us at Carl Darnell Army Medical Center to support our families with great medical support. Like everyone has stated, if you have issues or concerns, please get back with us. We have a patient services representatives. Touch base with us on Facebook. Go to our website, and we look forward to hearing from you because it is through your voice that we make our system much better. Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks, Pat. Hey, look, I want to thank our media partners, KNCT and KCEN, for their support. I want to thank the hundreds of folks from our public affairs teams to our medical team, to our garrison team, to our housing team for coming together tonight to pull this off. And I want to thank you for giving us your tough questions, and we'll continue to follow up. Look, nothing is more important to this commanding general to making sure that we are responsive and that we do all we can to make sure that your troops are combat ready and that we provide a safe and secure environment. Thank you. Great having you with us tonight. Army Strong, Phantom Warriors.